Welcome to the show where we look at how business shapes our world. I'm Stephen Carroll. Coming up, bracing for Brexit. Business confidence plunges in the UK as a weakened government gears up for talks on leaving the European Union. Flying high or turbulent times. We'll have the key things to watch at this year's Paris Air Show. And could shop window dummies be spying on you? We're looking at the latest technology that monitors consumer behaviour. First up, though, a weaker government in Westminster and tough talk from Brussels. It's not the best context for talks on Brexit set to start in the coming days. In the United Kingdom, confidence among businesses has sunk through the floor, according to a post-election survey carried out by the Institute of Directors. They're afraid of a brutal breakup with the EU, and in practical terms, that may see firms put off decisions on things like new investment or hiring. Speaking in Paris, Prime Minister Theresa May insisted the British people were united on Brexit.
I think there is a unity of purpose among people in the United Kingdom. It's a unity of purpose, having voted to leave the EU, that their government gets on with that and makes a success of it. And we are committed to developing a deep and special partnership with the EU. We want the EU to continue to remain strong, and we want to continue to cooperate.
Well, for more on this, let's go to London and speak to Simon French, Chief Economist with Panmure Gordon. Simon, thanks for being with us. So we've had the election results, we've had this survey showing a big drop in business confidence. Should we be worried or more worried going into these Brexit talks now than we were before?
Well, we've also had quite a lot of economic news in recent days that has been a legacy, actually, of 12 months ago, the Brexit vote. You've seen the big collapse in sterling lead to a worrying spike in inflation that's led to a contraction of real wages. And, of course, going into Brexit talks, the government is desperate to have a strong economy behind them. And, of course, the risk is that with contracting real incomes, households are going to tighten their belts, and that will be the last thing the government will want, because it won't give them much leverage with European partners to say, well, credibly, we could walk away and still have a strong economy.
When we look at those wage growth figures, how much are people feeling in their pockets, or how soon will that effect be felt? Yeah, it's important not to overstate the impact of what is actually more of a global phenomenon. This is also something going on in the US, in Japan, in parts of the Eurozone, where wages simply 8-9 years on from the financial crisis are struggling to pick up, struggling to keep pace with inflation. But actually, going forward, employment is still very high, at probably the highest level since 1971. Unemployment of 4.5%. So households are not yet squealing too much, but it has to be said, if we get an unexpected spike in the oil price, that is the kind of thing which, of course, the UK economy can't control, will make things more difficult for households going into those key Brexit talks. I'm interested in that figure on unemployment. The lowest in 42 years paints a picture of a very healthy economy. How stable do you see that being as things get heated up in those Brexit talks?
Yeah, it has to be said, we shouldn't overestimate the impact of real wage compression, because actually employers, all the employer surveys going forward from both the Bank of England and from some of the key recruiters, are saying that employers are trying to hoard labour at the moment, trying to get ahead of those Brexit talks that may well tighten the available pool of migrant labour going forward. So from the perspective of employment and the unemployment rate, I'm not too concerned. But of course the worry is for the broader economy that the consumer will respond to the fact that their wages are not keeping pace with inflation and tighten their belts. And that is an integral part of the UK growth story, about 70%. And if that starts to be derailed, that makes for a very difficult economic outlook over the next couple of years.
What will be the big things to watch out for once these talks get underway? We don't really know how the information flow is going to work and what we're going to get information on and when. What are the key things you think the markets and the economy will be watching out for?
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, it will be quite crucial to get early clarity around the right to remain of more than 3 million European Union citizens who currently reside and, in the most part, work in the UK. Early clarity on that point will be key. But then also the signalling regarding customs arrangements and tariff arrangements going forward. The May government has said they do not want to be in the single market or within the customs union, but they have said they're targeting an associate customs agreement with the European Union. And I think that is going to be absolutely key for businesses. They understand there are not going to be frictions at the border, frictions at the ports when exporting into the European Union. From the perspective of sterling, for sterling investors, I think this is all around the hard Brexit versus soft Brexit scenario and the degree to which the Prime Minister's diminished political power following the general election means a softer version of Brexit, which of course should be bullish for sterling, which has sold off on news of a harder version.
OK, Simon French, Chief Economist at Panmure Gordon, thank you very much for joining us from London. Now, next to the biggest event of the year in the aerospace industry. The 51st Paris Air Show kicks off on Monday, drawing all the big names from across the sector. Airlines and manufacturers use the event to showcase groundbreaking technology, partnerships and new aircraft orders. This year, much of the focus will be on the new competition facing the dominant players in the market, Airbus and Boeing. Now, Kate Moody's been studying the state of the aviation industry and what to look out for at this year's show. Kate.
Stephen, squarely in the spotlight are those two major rivals, the French-based Airbus and American Boeing. Both supply planes to carriers around the globe and compete fiercely for new customers. Last year, Airbus saw a late surge in orders to win the sales crown, with 731 planes ordered for a total of $46 billion. That's compared to Boeing's 668 orders, worth $44 billion. Boeing managed to deliver more planes, though, and has gotten off to a stronger start this year. It's not all clear skies ahead for the market leaders. Both Boeing and Airbus accuse each other of receiving illegal subsidies and tax breaks in their home bases. They've each seen costly delays in production. Demand is softening for their most lucrative product, wide-bodied passenger jets with two aisles, like the Boeing 747 or Airbus A380. And still more firms are jumping into the game. Earlier this year, China debuted the Comac C919, which it billed as the first jet entirely built on home turf. Beijing's state-owned plane maker has partnered up with its Russian counterpart to develop their own long-range wide-body jet. The field of smaller single-aisle planes is even more crowded, with more established rivals from Brazil and Canada. Now, all manufacturers are trying to develop more fuel-efficient engines. Oil prices have slumped dramatically since 2014, and the resulting lower fuel costs have helped boost airlines' overall profits. But with prices back on the rise, next-generation engines are trying to do more with less. Airshows also offer a platform for the latest innovations. 3D printers, for example, are increasingly being used to manufacture parts for airplanes or engines, while virtual reality programs play a role in testing. For a touch of glamour, the latest in luxury cabin design is on display, while fighter jets like this Rafale from the French Air Force showcase their feisty flying and military might in the skies above Paris. Stephen?
Kate, thank you very much, and we'll have more from the Paris Air Show in next week's show. Next to something that's become the norm online. You buy something and the next thing you know, you're bombarded with ads for similar items on search engines and social media. Well, now technology is trying to catch up for bricks and mortar stores, and even when it comes to browsing shop windows. Alexander Alcott explains.
When you look at advertising and shop displays, beware. They could be watching you back. Free Wi-Fi can also come at a price, as your path through retail areas could be followed, spooking some customers.
That's what I'm increasingly afraid of, to be spied on, to be put on a list. Soon I'll pass in front of a shop and it'll say, "Oh, you bought this last week, so you should buy this." It's awful.
New technologies are also being employed to help shops entice more people in. This luxury mannequin manufacturer near Milan has started making models complete with hidden cameras to keep an eye on potential customers. They can record the number of people and estimate their age, gender, and even ethnicity.
So it's identified you as a young Caucasian woman.
This kind of analysis has already had a real-world effect. One of the companies operating these devices noticed a large number of people browsing its windows were of Asian origin.
The reaction of this big store was to say, well then, I should be hiring a lot more Asian sales assistants.
The technology can not only tell who is looking at what, but also how they're looking at it. This smart poster in the United States can read people's expressions and react to them. And similar adverts with cameras elsewhere, like these in Milan, can also attempt to monitor what people thought of ads by analysing their faces.
It will really give full reports that say, for example, your campaign was seen by exactly 103,272 people, 63% women, so many millennials. People really loved the end of your campaign, and it worked best in the east of France.
Previously only the stuff of science fiction, this kind of digital marketing is set to be a high street norm within the next 3 years.
That's all from us this week. If you have any thoughts on the stories that we've been covering, you can get in touch on Facebook at France 24 Business, or you can tweet me at NewStephen. Until next time, thanks for watching.
The 51%, presented by Annette Young.
A programme about women who are reshaping our world. We meet those who seek equality, be it in the boardroom or at the village well. The 51% brings you stories from across the globe about the women who are challenging the way we think.
The 51% on France 24 and France24.com.